This is not a rumor, and it is not a throwaway detail. This is now being treated inside palace walls as a serious operational problem. Prince Andrew's exit from Royal Lodge is stalling, not because of money or legal obstacles, but because of the sheer volume of possessions he refuses to let go of. Staff are overwhelmed, timelines are slipping, and what was supposed to be a controlled, quiet transition is turning into something far more uncomfortable. According to multiple insiders who have spoken on the record, the situation inside Royal Lodge has crossed a line. Rooms are no longer just cluttered. They are filled floor to ceiling with unopened deliveries, stacked documents, and personal items dating back decades, some untouched for years. Yet when staff attempt to intervene, they meet resistance. This is not mere disorganization. It is accumulation on a scale with real consequences. The key issue is time. Royal Lodge is due to be vacated by 2026. A message insiders say has been delivered clearly and repeatedly. The king wants the property cleared. The Crown Estate demands a timeline, yet progress remains painfully slow. One royal author recently described staff as at a loss because Andrew is simply not engaging with the process in any meaningful way. This is where the story shifts from awkward to alarming. Sources claim items are being removed late at night, trucks arriving under cover of darkness, belongings quietly transported to off-site storage linked to the Crown Estate. Not openly or transparently, but secretly. That detail matters. If this were routine, there would be no need for secrecy. The nighttime removals suggest sensitivity, urgency, and embarrassment. Insiders say what is being protected is not just privacy, but dignity. Concern that leaked photographs of the interior would reinforce a narrative the palace wishes to avoid. A disgraced royal living amid mountains of possessions, unable or unwilling to confront his downsizing. Yet traction is exactly what the story is gaining. Staff describe Andrew as deeply attached to his belongings, not just sentimentally, but defensively. Offers of professional help to sort, catalog, and discard items have reportedly been refused. One insider put it bluntly: he does not like interference and does not believe the situation is anyone else's business. That attitude has made an already complex logistical task emotionally exhausting for those carrying it out. Then there is the detail long dismissed as eccentric, but now more revealing: the teddy bears. Andrew's attachment to them has resurfaced with new significance. Sources claim he is genuinely distressed at the idea of moving them, expressing concern about how they will cope with leaving Royal Lodge. Whether taken literally or symbolically, the message is the same. This is someone struggling to detach from a space he still views as home, even as the institution moves on. All this unfolds against a deeply awkward backdrop. In the same week reports emerged of cluttered rooms and nighttime removals, Andrew attended a private family christening in one of the country's most exclusive chapels, access granted by the king himself. To some it looked like tolerance, to others, a final courtesy before the door closes for good. Behind the scenes, patience is thinning. The stripping of titles, styles, and honors is no longer theoretical. It is happening slowly, deliberately, with an unmistakable message. This is the end of the line. Yet the physical reality of removing Andrew from Royal Lodge is proving far harder than issuing statements or changing protocols. There is simply too much stuff, and the man at the center does not appear ready to let go. This raises a question insiders are quietly asking. Is the hoarding the cause of the delay or the excuse? Is it an emotional inability to accept changed reality or passive resistance designed to drag the process out? Because as the deadline approaches, one thing is clear: this is no longer just about a house. It is about control, denial, and whether a figure once protected by the system can truly be disentangled from it. What makes Royal Lodge different is not its size or history, but what it represents psychologically. For Prince Andrew, it was never just a residence. It was the last visible marker of relevance. Sitting inside Windsor Great Park, it operates in a strange gray zone. Not a working palace, not a museum, but a long-term leasehold that became synonymous with his status as a senior royal. Once he moved in, the house stopped feeling temporary and started feeling permanent. A fortress while others downsized or relocated. When his public role collapsed, Royal Lodge remained the one unchanging thing. Sources say Andrew does not view the move as simple relocation, but as erasure. One insider called it losing the last room where he still felt like himself. This is not logistics alone. It is about identity. Hoarding often intensifies when control is lost externally, manifesting here through possessions, space, and refusal. There is also the question of precedent. No modern royal has been removed from a home under circumstances quite like this. The directive comes from the top. The deadline is fixed. yet compliance is partial. Some believe the hoarding narrative explains delays practically while subtly reframing defiance as dysfunction. A man who cannot move is easier to manage publicly than one who will not, but not everyone accepts that. Several watchers argue Andrew knows exactly what he is doing, slowing the process, complicating logistics, anchoring himself to create friction, and friction buys time. There is speculation about the contents, decades of correspondence, photographs, papers, items from overseas travel. While no wrongdoing is suggested, there is anxiety about visibility. Once cleared, the house is no longer his private domain. This is why Royal Lodge has become a character in the story. The longer Andrew stays, the more it reinforces his belief that removal is negotiable. Yet the king's position is firm. It was never meant as a lifetime refuge. Conditions have changed. Courtesies may continue, but the direction is clear. What remains unclear is whether Andrew understands that. As pressure increases, attachments deepen, every unopened box a reason to pause, every stack an obstacle, every delay reinforcing the illusion that staying is possible. That is the paradox. The more the lodge resists being emptied, the more it confirms its time as his home is over. By the time this reached senior management, it was no longer a move but a problem. Staff on the ground, caught between royal authority and personal resistance, describe the atmosphere as tense and draining. What should have been phased clearance has become an emotional obstacle course. Instructions issued, then stalled. Boxes identified, then untouched. The emotional labor is significant. Staff must be discreet, respectful, endlessly patient while navigating moods and boundaries. Hierarchy complicates matters. When a senior royal refuses assistance, escalation is limited. Nighttime removals, incremental, cautious, reflect doing what we can when we can. Some staff express concern about optics. A disgraced royal unable to vacate on schedule undermines the monarchy's projected reform. There is frustration too. Belief that resistance is deliberate, delays engineered to force compromise near the deadline. Then there is the unspoken issue. What exactly is inside? Decades of private life create unease, not allegations of illegality, but anxiety over loss of control once items enter systems handled by others. This may explain reluctance. The less that leaves, the less exposure. For staff, it is a dilemma. Push too hard and risk breaching trust. Move too slowly and miss the deadline. Adding strain is Andrew's reputation for rigid expectations, now colliding with a situation demanding flexibility. Some question whether the system is equipped for this impasse. Modernization assumes rational compliance. This is emotional, unpredictable, resistant to tidy resolution. And so the burden remains with the staff, managing delays, absorbing frustration, maintaining discretion, all while the clock ticks toward 2026. What is striking is how quiet it all is. No public confrontations, no dramatic ultimatums, just a slow, grinding process that drains energy and patience. That silence, insiders say, is intentional. The last thing the palace wants is a public standoff, but silence has a cost. The longer this drags on, the more it reinforces the perception that Andrew is still dictating terms, even in diminished circumstances, while staff manage the consequences without authority to change them. At some point, something has to give, whether cooperation, courtesy, or control. The people waiting for that answer are not the ones with titles. They are the ones still packing boxes in the dark. For years, it was treated as an odd aside, comic relief to humanize, or trivialize, a deeply unpopular figure. But now, the teddy bears no longer read as quirky. They read as symbolic. Insiders say that when the move from Royal Lodge became unavoidable, it was not logistics that triggered the strongest reaction, but the emotional implications. Andrew did not frame it as a change of address. He framed it as loss. Nowhere was that more apparent than in his fixation on the objects around him, particularly his collection of teddy bears. Sources claim he has expressed genuine distress about how they will cope with leaving Royal Lodge, referring to them as companions and speaking as though they share his displacement. To some, this sounds absurd. To others familiar with patterns of withdrawal, it sounds consistent. Psychologists note that when status or identity collapses, individuals often redirect emotional energy toward objects, anchors that are predictable, non-judgmental, safe. In Andrew's case, as public life closed in, his private world narrowed, and objects took on meaning beyond their form. This is not about toys, it is about control. When so much has been stripped away, roles, duties, credibility, prospects, what remains are things that cannot argue back, that do not leave, that can be arranged, ordered, protected. Seen this way, the hoarding shifts tone. Not chaos, but defense. Insiders believe this explains rejected offers of professional help, Accepting it would mean relinquishing control over what stays and goes, allowing others to decide what matters. For someone whose life is now defined by decisions made elsewhere, that is a step too far. There's also a developmental element experts reference. Emotional retreat often brings regression in coping, comfort objects, routines, repetition, familiarity. The insistence on specific handling of items fits that pattern. Staff have reportedly been instructed to treat certain belongings with extreme care, not for value, but emotional significance. This adds complication. Every item becomes sensitive, every decision personal, the line between necessity and accommodation blurred. Some argue the palace indulged this dynamic too long, reinforcing the behavior now causing delays. Others counter that pushing risks escalation, a meltdown, leak spectacle no one wants. That fear is not unfounded. Sources say Andrew has struggled with Royal Lodge no longer being his sanctuary, speaking of it as emotionally his, even if not legally. That ownership extends to atmosphere, routines, objects. Remove those, and he confronts full isolation. This may explain why resistance feels childlike to some, not calculated defiance, but emotional overwhelm. The insistence that bears will not cope, projecting feelings onto inanimate objects. These are coping mechanisms under strain. Yet the impact is real. Staff delayed, timelines compromised, the institution quietly embarrassed. What began internally has leaked publicly, reframing Andrew as stuck, frozen in a life that no longer exists. Some insiders worry this is what he fears most, being seen not as wronged but diminished, not defiant but dependent. So attachments tighten, resistance deepens, letting go becomes unbearable. The irony is clear. Behaviors preserving comfort now accelerate exposure. Private eccentricity becomes public narrative, difficult to reverse. At this stage, the teddy bears are no longer a footnote. They are a signal, a glimpse into a psychological standoff behind closed doors. One raising an uncomfortable question for the monarchy. How do you move someone forward when emotionally anchored to the past? If resistance continues, the issue will not be whether Andrew leaves Royal Lodge, but what version of himself leaves with him. By this point, there is little ambiguity about authority. The decision came from the top with intent, not unkind but unmistakable. This chapter ends. Those close to the king describe the approach as deliberate, restrained, firm. No dramatic announcement, just practical changes. Titles adjusted, privileges narrowed, access recalibrated. Each small alone, but together a clear direction. What makes this significant is how it is done. Modern monarchs rarely exercise authority so personally, usually diffused by protocol. Here, the hand is visible. The king shapes the outcome. Insiders say this roots in a broader vision. Streamlined monarchy, fewer contradictions, clearer lines between duty and entitlement. Royal Lodge is a test case, if unresolved. Critics question reform's meaning. There is a generational element. The king aware of legacy, practically, what he leaves. Andrew's presence represents unfinished business, a loose thread unraveling narratives. Patience thins, deadlines no longer flexible, updates frequent. The tone shifts to polite insistence. The grace period ends, compassion remains, family considerations honored, but understanding does not equal exemption. Observers note contrasts in handling legacies, value invested, risk contained. Andrew now falls into the latter. Some say the slow pace intentional, avoiding rupture reduces backlash. No explosive headline, just narrowing options, quiet inevitability. Others see danger, complication, leaks, sympathy muddying waters. The hoarding story may reframe resistance as fragility, but limits exist. The king's authority is not theoretical, final word on property, access, status. He has allowed time, not ambiguity. Royal Lodge is not Andrew's future, that is settled. Unsettled is how far the king goes if cooperation lags, hard deadline without consent, staff acting regardless, courtesy withdrawn. These questions arise more frequently behind doors. Optics matter, delays chip at control, leaks fuel speculation. For a monarchy projecting stability, problematic. The king conscious of symbolism, Royal Lodge risks becoming stalemate monument. He wants resolution, clean lines, forward motion, not indefinite crisis management. Pressure, though quiet, is real. Andrew may feel protected by habit, ties, avoidance instinct, but the system shifts steadily, with resolve. The question is no longer whether the king has authority to end this, but whether Andrew recognizes it is already exercised. And if not, what happens when courtesy yields to consequence? As 2026 approaches, conversation inside palace walls shifts to consequence, not possibility. The decision made, timeline exists. Unresolved, will Andrew move by choice or no alternative? Insiders say this distinction matters. A voluntary exit preserves limited dignity. forced rewrites the ending. Andrew seems determined to delay as margins shrink. There is recognition that hoarding, resistance, slow pace point deeper than logistics to acceptance or lack thereof. He is asked not just to leave a house, but inhabit a reality without his former role. Some believe this explains traction for temporary solutions, smaller property on the king's estate, a base, placeholder, not home. For most, practical compromise. For a hoarder, immediate problem. What happens to what won't fit? Storage absorbs only so much. Time stretches limited. Patience finite. Belongings must eventually be sorted, released, or left. Speculation of extended abroad periods. Bahrain mentioned. Lavish, familiar, distant. If true, property symbolic, vacated in name, not spirit. Technical compliance avoiding confrontation. But limits exist. The longer drags, more undermines discretion. Leaks feed avoidance narrative. Delays reinforce inability to move forward. Fragile sympathy erodes resembling indulgence. The palace aware cannot afford open-ended saga intersecting unresolved discomfort. Resurfacing images, associations, questions remind Andrew remains liability. Yet family complicates. Not simple eviction, managed withdrawal balancing authority restraint. The king wants resolution without spectacle but resolved. Aims now intention. Final months decisive. Cooperation improves or enforcement unavoidable. Andrew engages or process proceeds without him. That choice narrows, striking how quietly it unfolds. No statements, countdowns, just incremental pressure behind doors. Silence appears calm but weighted, prepared to wait, not forever. For Andrew, challenge stark. Let go or be left by uncontrollable events. Hoarding, once private coping, now public symbol of struggle. Symbols established, hard to shake. This is why next phase matters, not just for Andrew, but monarchy. How it ends shapes perceptions of reform, accountability, resolve. Answering quiet question. Can the system move on from its most problematic figure, or will hesitation, habit allow past to linger? That answer comes one way or another.